The mess hall of the Galactic Coalition cruiser Harmony's Edge buzzed with the usual chatter of a mixed crew. Zephyrians clicked their mandibles over nutrient paste, while Corvan officers shared fermented algae with ritualistic precision. The human contingent occupied their cornered table, as they always did, sharing stories and synthetic coffee that somehow tasted better when consumed in their company. Ensign Kex 9, fresh from the Coalition Academy and still bearing the metallic sheen of newly installed neural implants, approached the human table with the confidence that only came from inexperience. The young Andromedian's chrome-plated skull reflected the overhead lights as he set down his meal tray. "Mind if I join you?" Kex 9 asked, his vocal synthesizer carrying the clipped precision of his species. Lieutenant Sarah Chen looked up from her coffee and gestured to an empty seat. "Of course. How are you settling in, rookie?" "Well enough," Kex 9 replied, arranging his geometric food portions with mechanical precision. "Though I must admit, I'm curious about something. In all my tactical studies, boarding actions are considered the most efficient method of capturing enemy vessels with minimal damage to valuable resources. Yet in the operational reports I've reviewed, human crews consistently avoid them. Why?" The conversation at nearby tables began to fade. Veteran crew members of various species turned their attention toward the human corner, their expressions ranging from curiosity to something that might have been concern. Commander Torres, the senior human officer present, set down his fork with deliberate care. His weathered face bore the scars of a dozen campaigns, and his eyes held the weight of memories that younger officers couldn't yet comprehend. "That's an interesting question, Ensign," Torres said quietly. Corporal Maya Singh, the squad's demolitions expert, let out a short laugh that contained no humor. "Interesting. That's one way to put it." Kex 9's optical sensors flickered between the humans, his advanced processors struggling to parse the emotional undercurrents he was detecting. "Have I said something inappropriate?" "My cultural sensitivity protocols indicate—" "No, kid," interrupted Sergeant James Park, his cybernetic arm whirring softly as he reached for his water glass. "You haven't said anything wrong. It's just complicated." The mess hall had grown, remarkably quiet. Even the Zephyrians had stopped their perpetual clicking, creating an almost oppressive silence that seemed to press down on everyone present. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the ship's xenobiologist, and the only human present who hadn't seen combat, spoke up. "Perhaps we should explain. Kex 9 deserves to understand." Torres nodded slowly. "Very well. Tell me, Ensign, what do you know about human evolutionary history?" "The standard briefings," Kex 9 replied. "Your species evolved on a death world with extreme environmental pressures. High gravity, aggressive fauna, frequent natural disasters. This produced a species with exceptional adaptability and resilience. That's the sanitized version they teach at the academy," Singh said, her voice carrying an edge. "But they leave out some crucial details." "Such as?" Kex 9 asked. Torres leaned back in his chair. "Tell me, Ensign, how does your species resolve territorial disputes? Through negotiation and mediation. If that fails, economic sanctions. Violence is inefficient." "And the Zephyrians?" "Ritual combat between champions. Very civilized." "The Corvans?" "Mathematical probability assessment determines the rightful party." Torres nodded. "All very reasonable, very civilized." He paused, his gaze growing distant. "Humans spent roughly 200,000 years learning to kill each other with increasing efficiency. We didn't have ritual combat or mathematical formulas. We had warfare. The word hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Not just conflict, Dr. Vasquez added gently. Warfare. Total, unrestricted, innovative violence designed to completely destroy the enemy's ability to resist. We got very, very good at it. Kex 9's processors whirred audibly. But surely in Davray, space combat, such primitive instincts would be amplified, Park interrupted. You see, rookie, when you put a human in a confined space with an enemy, something ancient wakes up, something that remembers when our ancestors had to fight, saber-toothed cats in caves with nothing but sharpened sticks and raw determination. Singh leaned forward. The last time Coalition Command ordered a mixed crew to conduct a boarding action with human Marines was the Kepler Station incident. 7 years ago. What happened? Kex 9 asked, though his vocal synthesizer betrayed a note of uncertainty. We won, Torres said simply. Overwhelmingly, completely. The enemy crew surrendered within minutes. Then why? Because our allies were almost as terrified of us as the enemy was, Dr. Vasquez explained. The Zephyrian observers filed reports describing human Marines as possessed by ancient demons. The Corvin tactical assessors classified our boarding techniques as unnecessarily brutal for civilized warfare. Torres continued, You see, Ensign, when humans board a ship, we don't just secure objectives. We adapt, improvise, and overcome with a ferocity that evolution bred into our bones. We use whatever's available as a weapon. We move through those corridors like apex predators that have been caged too long and finally found prey. The enemy, crew at Kepler Station, tried to surrender after 12 minutes, Singh added. But our Marines were so deep in combat mode that 3 separate units didn't hear the surrender calls over their own battle cries. Kex 9's optical array flickered rapidly. Battle cries? Ancient human tradition, Park explained. We make noise when we fight. Lots of noise. It intimidates enemies and coordinates friendly forces. Very effective. Very disturbing to species that prefer quiet, calculated warfare. The Coalition brass realized something that night, Torres said. Humans don't just fight to win objectives. We fight like our species' survival depends on it, every single time. Because for most of our evolution, it did. Dr. Vasquez placed a gentle hand on the table. It's not that we're inherently violent, Kex 9, but when we're threatened, or when we're protecting something important, humans access combat instincts that other species simply don't possess. We become something different. Something effective, Singh corrected. Something terrifying, Park added. Torres nodded gravely. So now, when boarding actions are necessary, human crews handle them alone. It's better for everyone's psychological health that way. The mess hall remained silent for a long moment. Kex 9's processors worked overtime, integrating this new information with his understanding of his human crewmates. But you seem so, he began. Normal? Torres smiled, and for the first time, it reached his eyes. We are normal, kid. This is who we are when we're not fighting for our lives. The creature you're worried about? It only comes out when it absolutely has to, Singh grinned. And you really, really don't want to see it unless you're on our side. As conversations slowly resumed throughout the mess hall, Kex 9 looked around the table at his human companions with new understanding. They were still the same colleagues who shared terrible jokes and helped him with his reports. But now he understood why other species spoke of humans in hushed, respectful tones when they thought no humans were listening. "Thank you for explaining," Kex 9 said finally. "Just remember, Rookie," Torres said, returning to his meal, "we're on the same side, and that's exactly where you want to be." The mess hall returned to its normal rhythm, but Kex 9 noticed that several alien crew members continued to glance at the human table with what he now recognized as a mixture of gratitude and healthy respect. After all, it was always better to have humanity's ancient demons fighting with you rather than against you.